Hello, everyone. Welcome to mock episode 2 of Ball IQ Pod. I'm Tolu, Real Madrid fan.
Nelson, Chelsea fan.
Today, we're going to be discussing the games that we watched over the last week in England, Italy, and Spain. And we'll also be discussing the upcoming games that we're looking forward to with big ramifications. So, let's get right into it, right?
Get to it.
So let's start in England since you're playing at home right now.
Yeah.
And so we can start with, I guess, Chelsea Fulham and our thoughts on the game, our thoughts on the tactics, of course, beautiful goals and whatnot. So go ahead.
I mean, what a game. I actually personally didn't get a chance to go to church on Sunday, but I feel like I was able to see a revival of something beautiful. That team was pretty much dead and buried for the large majority of the game. But I was really impressed in the resiliency shown by the squad, first and foremost. We were trailing for the large majority of the game, to come back and get two quick goals like we did towards the end of the game. As a fan, I was buzzing to see Tyreek George, young academy talent who has had a great week, to be honest. He scored against Legia Warsaw, was it?
Yeah,
Or excuse me.
The Conference League.
The Conference League team. Who knows? To be honest, I lose track, but he did score there. Blooded himself into the squad, and then obviously to get his first Prem goal was big. I was worried that it was going to be a draw, and the squad in general would have taken some heat for dropping points, and that would have overshadowed Tyreek's big moment. But to see what had happened in the dying minutes, a moment of individual brilliance, to be honest, from both Cole Palmer and Enzo. The link up before that, I know I sent you the link.
Yeah. I watched the game too. So, yeah.
Of course. The link up before that between Caicedo and Enzo, it's finally clicking. Both those players were 100 million each. We got laughed at and ridiculed for both of those transfers. And I know last year there was a huge fear whether that would actually gel, that double pivot. Both players couldn't be more different in terms of what they do in the midfield for us. But I feel like they finally drummed up that chemistry that has really solidified things for our midfield. One of the things that was troubling to me that I saw, and I mentioned this to Tolu while I was watching the game, is Reece James is probably my favorite player in the squad.
Yeah.
Has been for some time. And he just looks nervous on the ball. He looks rusty. He looks rusty, and he's had games back. This isn't his first game back from injury. It's more so his new role in Maresca's system as a inverted right back. Yeah. It's being called to be a central midfielder. You need to have your head on a swivel. The goal that was conceded was a direct response at a moment of carelessness. And it's just not being comfortable with what he's being asked to do, and not given enough time to adapt at the business end of the season. So I was really proud. I mean, if we didn't win that game, I think personally, given our run-in, season's over. Maresca's probably on his way out just because the progression from Poch to Matt. I mean, you could argue we're not. I mean, we started very well this season. And that I got to give credit to Maresca there, but we've fallen off, and that's largely been self-inflicted. So, really curious to see how it ends up, but it was a very important win on Sunday.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, from a tactical perspective, I think Fulham don't do anything that complicated in setup, straight 4-2-3-1. And your boy Iwobi, who always always ruins your plans.
If he could just do that in this jersey, we would be in the World Cup.
Yeah, but I mean, you alluded to it as well. Like noticing, I mean, most of the big teams they always try and play some sort of complicated. I don't want to say complicated as a bad word, but some sort of complicated, not straightforward formation on the ball, especially. And I did notice like Correa was your traditional attacking fullback, and Reese was supposed to be the inverted fullback. Then they play a box, like you say. It's when Reese goes into the middle, Enzo goes to the right. So it's Reese, Caicedo, and the two center backs. That's their box of creativity. So it's interesting to see that. Then Cole doing what he does, just trying to find pocket of spaces and stuff like that. So it was a good game to watch. Obviously, important game because, like Nelson said, the ramifications are big. I think every point dropped is like every point is worth like how much pounds you say.
I mean, it's in spades. It's squeaky bum time, as Sir Alex said, and you got to bloody die for 3 points. That's really what was done. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It was probably the best ending to a Chelsea game I'd seen in a couple of months. I mean, it's been kind of lost in the headlines, but Cole Palmer hasn't scored since January 17th, and all things still run through him if we're being honest. So
yeah, I mean, me personally, somebody hasn't scored since. I feel like it's a new thing. I don't really like it. Are they playing well? Are they not playing well?
That's very true as well. Yeah. That's very true.
But hey, man, that's just me. Mm-hmm. But I mean, speaking of top four, the two Villa games versus City and versus Newcastle were also pretty important. I watched I watched both actually, but starting with Villa Newcastle, I was looking forward to that game because of the midfield battles. I think Tillemans, however you say his name, has been class, right? I was curious to see because obviously Unai Emery can play based on the attacking players he has. He can play a different. He can play two up front. He can play a 4-2-3-1. He can play 3 and 2 10s and a striker. He can play any way he wants. And I thought that the box, just like I explained the box for Chelsea, I think their box was on the left, and all their goals came from there. So it was Tillemans, Asensio, Rogers, and Matson. That box did all the damage that happened in the game. Right? It was interesting to see. Newcastle didn't play horribly in the beginning. Then I think towards the end, Villa just wanted it more. And I mentioned it last week. It just felt like they were pissed off of the PSG game, and they just came.
Something to prove.
Yeah, something to prove. And I mentioned it last week as well that John McGinn said after the knockout how great the experience was and how they're pretty much going to give their blood to get back there. So that's why that game was so intriguing for me to watch. But I don't know if you watched the game.
I did. I watched some of the highlights, to be honest. It was a busy weekend. But I've been very curious to follow Villa this entire season. I mean, Unai Emery is a class manager, and I think watching what he's done, this season to make sure that his team has been prepared for all the competitions that they had been stretched in, was really interesting. I mean, they offloaded some players. And then in the January window, they were able to bring in 3 players who I think have been immense. Rashford, of course, Asensio. And then, they all can't be winners. They brought in Axel Disasi, who's reinforced their defense and that back line to give, because Matty Cash and Ian Maatsen are both attacking-minded fullbacks. There has to be a balance in those types of teams. So they might rotate Disasi in, he's just, for me, and I think for anybody with 2 eyes, He's not a right back.
It's
just not working. He's a center back. Sometimes they get burned, sometimes they don't. Obviously with this game against Newcastle, they were able to really overshadow any inconsistencies by just overloading that left-hand side. I was buzzing to see, Ollie Watkins get a goal early on. I know he hasn't been
He's pointing to himself.
He needs to. I mean, he's obviously backing himself because I know he hasn't been. Is he getting started regularly or is he
not regularly? Yeah. I think I think of recent, to my recollection, Unai Emery has been rotating them versus playing both of them because he's been playing with one striker. Yeah.
So was happy to see that in such an important fixture. Again, Ian Matson, Chelsea Academy product, so obviously it was buzzing to see him get a goal as well. But yeah, like I said, Villa's, on the heels of such what could be a very troubling loss to PSG or in the Champions League, especially with such a tightly contested run in the Prem. I feel like they're handling it relatively well. Obviously we'll get to the next game that happened.
Might as well just get straight to it because you brought up Disasi, and I think you also before recording when we're talking about it, and you brought it like the same mistake that Unai Emery made against City, he made against PSG with the Disasi decision. I think removing. First of all, the game ended 2-1, last minute goal by Matheus Nunes. And the goal came from Disasi being too tight on Doku, feet not fast enough. Doku just knocked past him by a line, cross, tapping. Well, not tapping, but finish at the back post. I think that lost them the game. Obviously, lost them the game. But I was watching the whole game. I think that Unai Emery may have overdone it.
Tinkered
too much. Yeah. I think that so he played 4-5-1, like straight 4-5-1, respecting City. I think what I would have done differently. If you had to play 4-5-1 and respect City, you're playing Rodgers on the right. I don't know. He got a yellow card for like mistimed challenges. Defensively, just not the guy. I would have started McGinn there. Like if you're just going to do that, might as well just start McGinn there. He played Tillman to start. Tillman was the 10. He won going bombing forward, and it was Onana and Kamara holding. And then Onana left, and Tillman dropped back, and Sensio came in, whatnot. But I thought Rashford played very well again. He was central striker, but running through the channels to the left and the right, creating chances, scored a penalty, just wreaking havoc. Yeah. But again, same sub. Why not keep them both? It was just playing too protective. And again, the Disasi mistake was. I don't know how you couldn't see that coming.
Doku is a good player, but his main thing is pace. And with players like that, at that level, you just got to be smarter than that. You can't play somebody that tight. And I was telling Tolu the first time I saw it, you can even go back and look at the timestamps on the first leg game.
The PSG
game. Emery subs off Matty Cash, I think, in the 67th minute. I believe it was the 67th minute. But regardless, if not but 3 minutes later, Kravica Kvaratskhelia goes down, ridicules Disasi, and blows the tie open. It's really elementary. He's not equipped for that type of that amount of pace or that dribbling. He's just not that type of player. He's being played out of position. So I'm giving him a little bit of stick, but at the same time, you know, to lose a career striker, it would be like putting him as a right back. You know, it's just not what he's been born, you know, what he's built to do. So, you know, I mean, we'll see. I think I'm curious. Do you think Rashford or the Asensio loans will be solidified at the end of the season?
Great question.
I mean, it's PSR obviously, but
great question. I mean, why choose? Get them both.
Bring them in.
Bring them in. Like, why choose?
Yeah.
I think bring them both. But I also want to just mention, like, the Sassi came on before the Doku sub, but I mean, Doku was going to come in.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
He was going to come in. So, like, even though he came in before the Doku sub, you can see that card coming a mile away. But but to answer your question, why not keep them both? Now, Rashford is expensive to keep, of course, but I'm not sure how expensive it would be to keep Asensio. I'm happy to see him, obviously, Real Madrid boy, and also seeing, you know, Spanish player from La Liga via France do well in the Prem. So, you know, just to show that obviously we have ballers in our league as well. But I was going to bring up City as well and see how, like, to kind of comment on how they are playing without Haaland.
Yeah.
And it looks very pre-Haalandy.
Yeah.
Like,
back to basics for Pep. You know, they're dominating their opponents with possession and being very patient in terms of picking when their opponent gives them moments when they're out of position. It's classic City. Honestly, City at their, you know, that one outlier season where Kevin De Bruyne was just spamming balls into Haaland and they kind of, you know, broke every record. It's an outlier, but I think the best, when City at their best, there were 2 seasons, maybe 3, where they did it without a striker, and there's inevitability about their style of play that, you know, I think the business end of the season, credit to Pep, it's coming back. So.
Yeah, and I think Mamouche is. I mean, if you want to go back to that pre-Haaland City, like, he's the perfect striker. Because again, just like what I was mentioning with Rashford versus City, he was doing the same thing for City, just driving off to the left. City, like, obviously the way they attack, they pretty much bomb everyone forward. But there'll be 2 center backs, then Kovacic to form that diamond there. Then Kevin De Bruyne was playing like a false 9, just going wherever he wanted. Nunez, the fullback, Nunez and O'Reilly, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
Just high, everybody high. Like, it was the 2 center backs, Kovacic, and everybody else. And everybody else. And Villa allowed that to happen because of how, like, they played. Granted, it's not easy to play City at home, but they allowed it to happen. But going back to the City without Haaland, again, looking more and more like the old City that we know. Is it better? Is it worse? Who knows? But it just looks like the old City. And these last couple of games, the amount of cutbacks I've seen, like, just like the old City, just byline, cutback, bang, goal. Like, Kovacic has benefited from it. Gundogan has benefited from it. Mamouche has benefited from it. Even Matheus Nunes, who hasn't scored in forever, has benefited from it. So it's very interesting.
You know, those goals that they score when they're playing like this, it seems, you know, that pass Doku made to Nunes, you'd think it's simple, you know, no, not complicated, but to time that, to have somebody be right there, because I speak from experience, because you know, as I meant, Cole Palmer's been on a goal drought, but it's not for lack of trying. He'll play those balls in, but it takes drilling and chemistry to be in that right position to finish that off. City, I mean, when those cutbacks are lethal, because you have players like a Foden or a Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan,
Kovacic,
Marmouche,
Rodri,
all of them know exactly. It's been drilled to the point of ad nauseum. They know exactly where to be, when to be there. There's an option A, B, and C, and so on and so forth. So again, like, it's just watching a team that you knew was eventually going to get their confidence and their groove back. Kind of get their confidence and their groove back. I think they're odds on for third. You know, given the state of the table currently, which is, you know, there's still a lot of football to play, but I think that they're really they have, out of all the teams in the running, they probably have the least to worry about.
Yeah, I think so too. Speaking of running, I'm going to Arsenal Crystal Palace. That game I didn't watch in totality, but I can't really speak too much on the tactics. But I mean, that Mateta goal, I don't know if you saw it. JP Mateta, that goal was, you see, but again, it goes back to, you know, modern football. Saliba doing the same thing he did versus Madrid in Madrid, overplaying or not taking care of the ball well. Gets the ball, like the technique on the chip, it was like he sliced the ball and it was just perfect.
There's a couple of strikers this season that are just, I mean, in terms of striking the ball, they really remind me of some proper like vintage Barclays
back then.
You know,
yeah.
It's kind of and he's one of those guys.
Yeah, like, he is.
Mateta's one of those guys that you don't get a striker like that, who's the perfect balance, pace, power, and finish, composure. They've got themselves
shirt tucked in. You don't see the strikers anymore.
Exactly. No nonsense. But you know, I was mentioning to Tolu earlier. I really think you know, Arsenal they've changed their style of play this season. It's more pragmatic.
Yeah.
It's not, they've kind of eschewed their entire Wenger mentality of style over substance. You know, Arteta's not shy or afraid to start a very defensive team with more than three or four center backs or right or any combination of defenders if need be. But I feel like that level of pragmatism has robbed them in a lot of fixtures that last year or the years past, they would have beat the brakes off of these teams. I think Arsenal, you know, Palace is, you know, they played very well, but inconsistent. They're beatable. And I think Arsenal, out of the top six, I think they have about 13, maybe over 13 draws this season.
Yeah, a lot.
They you know, they can't really defend. They don't go for. They've drawn 13 games this season. That's more than any of the top six clubs, the traditional top six. And you know, they kind of fall away at certain points of games, and you know, you could say that with all the injuries that they've had, Liverpool is kind of locked in to win the title early on, like arguably December, I would say, and I think they've got it in the bag. But still, you know, Arsenal hasn't really done their part. You know, anytime they could have and should have kept it close, they've fallen away. It's kind of curious. I think in the past 3 years, it's probably the weakest Arsenal team I've seen. Maybe.
But I have no leg to stand on because they beat the brakes out of me out of the Champions League. But I think that even though this season is not as explosive as most would have probably expected from an Arsenal team, I think there's a lot of learnings that is evident in that team. Obviously, speaking specifically in Champions League, looking at their defensive record, like I think they're still building good habits. I think that it's only a matter of time. It's just like how Liverpool were until they finally won the first one. Then they're going to win the league again today.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Champions League. You just need to just keep building, keep going. I think they need to keep Arteta. First of all, none of that Arteta out nonsense.
Well, so it's a great point. I think, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
But I think in sports, teams have windows, right? They have windows of opportunities, and those windows are defined by, the age of their players, the confidence of the board and the manager, injuries, contracts in general, the wages. There's certain times where you'll have a player who's brilliant and they'll be young, but that Madrid knock is different. And once that Madrid knock happens, that window is going to shut. I think Arsenal had reached almost like their peak. Arguably, this coming into this year, it was kind of a prove-it situation for Mikel Arteta because they had kind of reached a ceiling where they couldn't really win the damn thing. I think that game against Madrid was a watershed moment. I mean, it was such a big moment in the larger scheme of football because when Real loses. I don't mean to bring it up, but when Real loses, typically there's a lot. It takes a lot, number one, but there's ramifications from that moment in time. Whether that means them, Real adjusting things, which will affect other teams across the world of football.
Yeah.
But with that game, like I said, this season coming in. I think maybe in, I want to say November, Edu, who's the director for Arsenal.
Was?
Was. He went off to, he accepted a new job at Forest. So it was really on Mikel Arteta. When that happens, I mean, they were like this first and foremost. When that type of thing happens, it's a lot of pressure on the manager to really be what the club wants as they look for another sporting director who's going to help mold the squad for years to come. And to kind of see how Arteta approached that game against Madrid, coached up his players, and the dissonance between, at that time, I mean, I would never say anything against Don Carlo. He won my club a brace. But just sort of how tactically different both of those teams had set up.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a watershed moment. I didn't mean to get on that tangent there.
No, but that's fair.
Yeah, just in talking about Arsenal in general, I think this was a big season for them, but there's still and there's a lot of learning lessons that they had, but there's still a lot that needs to be done in order to get over that hump.
I mean, you mentioned window earlier. I think that window isn't closed yet.
No.
I think that next year, bar maybe Liverpool, maybe anything can happen next year.
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, anyone nailed on for, in my opinion, top two, maybe top three, but anyone nailed on, in my opinion, for top two will be Arsenal and somebody else. Whether they win it or not is, I don't know, but I don't think that window is closed. I think that, again, like I said, they're learning good habits. And I think that they found something in their defensive structure and set pieces to carry on. And maybe when they add a goal scoring striker or maybe a better, like their own version of Firmino or something like that to help Saka and Martinelli and chip in like 10, 15 goals. Maybe that's what takes them over the round. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Interesting to see. But the game against Palace today, I mean, Arsenal did the same thing that they always do, which is 4 in the back, 3 midfield, 3 up top. Trossard started up top, but obviously they try and create overload with, same way we were talking about Chelsea earlier with Reece coming in, Reece James. They do that with MLS, Mark Lewis Kelly. And and they try and dominate the midfield, get it to their wingers and create from there. So nothing really different. I get nervous for teams when they have a big game coming up, like PSG, and they start picking up bad habits like that. So we'll see if that comes to bite them. Well, we can go to Spain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real Madrid, we played Athletic Bilbao. I don't think they're called Bilbao anymore. Athletic Club. 1-0 win. I said last week with Mbappe's suspension, will Don Carlo go back to pre-Mbappe formation of a four in the back diamond in the midfield with Jude at the head of the diamond and Vinny Rodrigo, or does he play same formation with and just replace Mbappe with Endrick? And he went to his pre-Mbappe formation. Now they look much better defensively with that formation with the four diamond two. However, it wasn't as creative. It wasn't as creative. They looked better defensively, and Jude looked much better because he was, he had this 10 roll. He really arrived to the box, had some chances that, he could have scored. Had a chance of winning a penalty. It didn't get called a pen. So it was interesting that he went back there to that formation, which is a statement in itself. Where it's like, okay, if you're going back to that formation without Mbappe, is that what you really want to do? And just the fact that you have to play everyone is what is making you play everyone. So it was interesting to see. And also today, first of all, that formation also, maybe the lack, Mbappe being absent, but Vinny was very aggressive on the ball. It was like taking chances, sometimes being selfish, which is
took it on himself.
Which is not necessarily anything I hold against him, because he creates as well. So he was just very, very, very aggressive. You look shades of like himself like earlier in the season and last season. Today they did the same thing, the same different personnel, but the same formation of four diamond two. The two this time was Vinny and Endrick, and the four in the middle were Tchouaméni, Valverde, and Arda, with Brahim as a 10, but drifting out the right.
Wow.
And again, for the first half until second half when they made subs and whatnot and pushed Tchouaméni to the back, they looked good defensively. But again, they created a decent amount of chances, but not maybe as much as you would expect. So I still have that to say. They won again today, 1-0. I still have that to say. It'll be interesting to see what he does. I know we'll cover it later, but what he does this weekend against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey final with Mbappe back.
Yeah.
Does he go maybe drop one of Rodrigo is the easiest person to drop because of his name. Does he drop Rodrigo, slot in Mbappe and stick with that four diamond two, or does he go back to 4-3-3 and do another shape?
That will be interesting to see. I mean, I think you hit a great point with, is that how Don Carlo wants to really play? You get these types of players that come into a squad, like an Mbappe, that, obviously it's like what you've always wanted. Any team would be happy to have him. But Madrid won the Champions League last year.
And the league.
Yeah, and the league. Playing in a very specific manner. And you got to feel for Don Carlo, because this isn't the first time he's been given a player. And I say given because I don't know. I just don't have it in my mind that I'm sure he like that. He's like, I need Mbappe. I want Mbappe on my team. He wanted a striker, I'm sure. But the amount of attention, the style of play is different. And he's been forced to try and come to reconcile with, the type of player profile that Mbappe brings to your team. Managing a Vinicius Jr. and an Mbappe in the same squad, making sure you're defensively you're sound, but also creating in a cohesive way that's yielding goals has been a challenge for Real Madrid this year. And I don't think it's anything against Don Carlo. I think it's more so just finding that that new recipe. That new, that new tactic. So.
Yeah. I mean, again, to be fair to him, defensively, I mean, we lost Militar early season. We lost Danny Carvajal early season. Alaba just came back not too long ago. All that birthed the rise of birthed Asensio, which has been great for us, of course. But Rudiger was out for a bit this season. Camavinga has been out for a bit this season. So the games that Barcelona spanked us on, we played Tchouaméni as right center back and Lucas Vazquez as right back.
Yeah.
That tandem right there messed us.
Yeah.
Like it finished us. So to be fair to him, he didn't get any replacement at right back. Didn't get any additional center defender. Solamendi's out as we speak.
Yeah.
Fran Garcia is not great defensively, but he's very, very good. He has improved a lot. I give him that. But he's not great defensively, but he's good offensively. So to be fair, like there's some. It's crazy that we thought last year would be the transition year, and we messed around and won the double. And this year we added Mbappe, and he looks more like the transition year. But again, we're not out of it. We're 4 points behind with 4 or 5 games to play, and we're in the final. So
not bad,
not horrible, not horrible. So we'll see. Obviously, it's a classic. Even though you probably say Barcelona are the favorites, and rightfully so, because they just know how to put the ball in the back of the net. They have that, they know how to put the ball in the back of the net. And I'm going to bring up something I noticed later on, but just that factor alone makes them much favorites, but I still back my team.
Yeah.
See what happens. But speaking of Barcelona, they played Celta Vigo over the weekend, and they played Mallorca this past game. Celta Vigo, they won 4-3, came back from 3-1 down at home.
That's impressive. 4 goals?
Yeah, 4 goals.
Wow.
And honestly, when Celta went 3-1 up, I was excited, but I'm like, these guys can score. I'm not even going to bring up refereeing decisions. I'm not just going to do that. But I just had this feeling like these guys can score. Like they know how to score. They just know how to score. And Pedri is, oh my God. I'm happy to see him back. I'm not happy to see him back in this form, first of all, but it's good to see him back, at playing top level football. I think that he's, again, I said it last week, he's the guy. He just dictates everything. But back to that game, they're just irresponsible, Barcelona. The 3 goals they conceded, they play a high line, as you know, but the 3 goals they conceded were off counters, as you expect. But the way Iglesias beat their high line, and he's not even a fast striker, it would probably be disappointing to Hansi Flick. And something we'll speak on later, it will be something that Inter will be watching.
Yeah, of course.
But they won that game 4-3, last minute, 90th minute penalty by Rafinha. And they beat Mallorca on Tuesday 1-0. Both games, they didn't play fantastic, but again, it's just that habit of scoring. Even though when you're not playing well, you can just grind out wins. So, pretty good for them, I think. I don't know if you saw any of those games.
Yeah, I keep a watchful eye on La Liga, but you are locked in.
Yeah,
I do think. Yeah, of course, naturally. I do think, like you said with Barcelona, and there are those types of teams that I'd say Liverpool's another. Where they'll go down 2 goals, 3 goals. You can celebrate if you'd like.
Yeah,
it's your right, but there's still time on the clock. Those people that last time I checked, Mohamed Salah still knows how to score goals. And they know how to respond, those types of teams. So the run in for the league is very tight in La Liga, if I recall.
4 points.
And just how Real Madrid ends the season is in the balance, which is as a fan, all you can really ask for, so this is really a prime time to be discussing football. I couldn't be happier to do it just because, everything's happening. From this point in time, a month from now,
a lot. Every weekend is important.
Yeah, every weekend's important. I'm sure there's going to be weeks where I'm not smiling, but by the grace of the amount of status, everything shakes out well.
For our respective clubs. Oh yeah, including me.
Of course, no. You don't need. You need prayer because things. I watched that. Arsenal game. So. But no, it's gonna be great, and I know we talked a little bit about Carlo. I know after that game, there's a lot of talks about next season, if he's going to Brazil and what type of thing. I was just kind of curious. I never got a chance to ask you, is there a manager in mind that you'd fancy? Because I know there are rumors about Klopp, there are rumors about Xabi Alonso. Zizou's been quiet. I know he hasn't even been interested, but it's always a fact. It's always a fact.
With Zizou,
yeah.
Honestly, I am not a reactive fan. I think that, yes, the season hasn't gone the way we wanted it to, but Don Carlo didn't just lose all his coaching knowledge just all of a sudden. He's still, I would not, even though again he makes some decisions that I wouldn't necessarily agree with. I'm not ready to he can
just cut ties.
No.
It's hard to find a manager like that.
Yeah.
And the market isn't just full of them.
I don't. The only person I'll feel comfortable replacing him with is Zidane because two successful stints. One obviously more successful than the other, but Real Madrid fans value that second stint as well because he came when we were in shambles and we lost. Was it semifinals against you guys? Yeah, and we won the league. That I remember one of those seasons. Benzema was our highest goal scorer in the league with 20-something goals. I think 23, 24 goals, something like that. And our second highest goal scorer was Sergio Ramos with 10 goals. And we won the league. So
very telling.
Exactly. So, that's the only coach that I'm comfortable with replacing Don Carlo. Other than that, honestly, I would not be... I don't want to say that and be resistant to change or whatnot. I know a lot of Real Madrid fans are sick of Don Carlo.
No,
I personally am not.
No, I'm sick of winning.
Exactly.
Sick of, the raise of an eyebrow. Who's sick of winning? And I think there are risks that come with Xabi Alonso. He's very young, very talented. What he did last season.
Yeah.
We look at a player like Florian Wirtz, who's been playing in a different position. He's been asked to do a little bit different this season, and the return isn't been there. I think Leverkusen is, I believe, still in the mix, but no, they aren't. Okay, excuse me, they're not in the mix whatsoever. And I think that has
they're second,
So they're not in the, so they're second in the league, but the gap is
the gap is healthy. I can check the gap. Yeah,
the cavernous gap between the two clubs. So back to what reality is, and that means Harry Kane's going to win himself a trophy.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, the gap is 8 points with what?
4 or 5 games.
4 games to go. Yeah,
it's cooked.
It's good.
But, and that's not an indictment on Alonso. It's just more so that, it's Real Madrid. And, that's a car that only a few people, or that only a few drivers know how to drive.
Yeah.
And, you've seen plenty of clubs or plenty of managers not be able to make it there. So, you got to be careful. And, even with the likes of a Klopp, I don't think that's a natural, it would be interesting, but I think that's, who knows?
It would, again, it would be interesting. I don't want to sound I don't want to put my foot down on it. Either way, if I was to put my foot down on anything, it would be to keep Don Carlo, just because of the record. Just because. But it's Real Madrid.
Yeah, of course,
It's Real Madrid. Florentino Perez doesn't care about all those things, but we'll see how it goes.
Of course.
We'll see how maybe this weekend either makes or breaks his case of staying versus season, of course, as well. So we'll see. But you mentioned like good time to watch football, and I'm like, oh yeah, good time to watch Serie A, Italian football, because many things are happening in that league. One of the games I paid attention to specifically was Atalanta AC Milan. And I didn't even pay attention to Bologna Inter. I don't know why. Even Bologna is fourth, I believe. But I just kind of underestimated them. Like, Inter will win 1-0 away.
Yeah.
Fine. But I wanted to watch Atalanta AC Milan because Atalanta are like a bit behind the top two of Inter and Napoli, but they need to keep winning or else they can just there you go. So. And obviously, because of the way Atalanta play with it, 3-4-2-1 formation, but they mark like 1v1 all the way. So I'm like, against AC Milan, that's interesting between Leao and Pulisic, Samuel Chukwueze off the bench. Very interesting to see how they exploit it. And watching that game, that's exactly what AC Milan was trying to do. They're trying to exploit Atalanta off the counter, just weren't good enough on the day. Again, on the ball, Darun, who's listed as one of Darun is the captain for Atalanta. He's listed as one of the 3 center backs, but my man pushed forward into midfield on the ball. Pulisic went up top with Rutegi. Quadrado, who is one of the 210s supposedly on sheet, was playing right wing back. Like they're playing and their own box, which again is becoming a theme. Everybody's just instead of triangles, they're having boxes. Their own box was let me see if I can remember. Darun, Quadrado, Rotegi, and Pulisic on the right side. The Ademola Lookman wasn't really used as much in the beginning of the game, but the one time they went to not the one time, but one of the few times that they went to the left to play on his side, the goal came from there. It was a cross back post, not at the back in, and Edison from the midfield bumped it, leaped around in the box, goal. So interesting game tactically, of course, because they're playing. I think AC Milan also playing 3 in the back, but so they played kind of the similar styles in shape, but AC Milan were more rigid with their 3-4-3 formation. Just weren't good enough. And Atalanta won. Inter lost to Bologna. I don't know if you saw the goal. It was a last minute bike.
Who scored?
Ossolini. You know that card that we get on EFC?
From that one, yeah.
Yeah. He actually has a Team of the Week card out because from that game. But yeah, so Inter lost. Napoli won. Scott McTominay. And now Inter and Napoli are level of points. Atalanta are what, 6 or 7 points behind them. Okay. So now it makes things interesting. I'll confirm that. But
I mean, Napoli, it's Conte. He's got warriors. They're his guys. I know coming into the season, looking at what he was doing with the squad, with bringing in a Scott McTominay, a Billy Gilmore, a Romelu Lukaku.
He's rebuilding.
I mean, he's doing things in his image, and when you let him do that, when you let Conte cook, you never really. I mean, he doesn't disappoint. It's just he gets a little bit too needy. Towards the end, or in the second or third season, typically is his MO. I do think looking at the squads, you look at an Inter, even though they've been a little bit wobbly as of late, I do think there's a difference in class between a Marcus Thuram and a Lukaku. At this point in time, I mean, Lukaku's a great career striker, especially in Serie A, but I feel like right now, Inter's got some impact players and a better spine to be equipped to maybe actually to clinch it.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll definitely see.
Fun fact, I don't know if it's changed now, but definitely in the weekend. Mm-hmm. Do you know who has the most assists in Syria?
Who?
Lukaku.
Big round.
So he has a double right now.
Mercurial talent.
So we'll see. They're both Inter and Napoli are both level at 71. The thing is, Napoli don't have any other competition.
Oh, okay.
Like they're just playing the league.
Yeah, okay, that's it. That's it. Once a week. Yeah,
and it's similar to his time at Chelsea. Kante at Chelsea,
of course.
Now, I mean, with the fixture the way it is,
that's a good point. I think Inter's got a lot on their plate.
Yep.
They just got embarrassed.
Yeah, very much so today. Yeah, and again, they lost 3-0 to AC Milan, who were their ninth on the table, but it was a cup game. Obviously, it's a derby.
Yeah,
like all those things kind of like can swing either way. But I mentioned last week when I was doing the Champions League review, and in the preview part of the mock episode, I was talking about the matchup between Barcelona and Inter, and how like Inter could learn a lot from how Dortmund played the second leg against Barcelona with a 3-4-3, and Inter played 3-5-2, but a complicated version of 3-5-2 with Bastoni carrying the ball in, and everybody just
what a player, by the way.
Crazy talent. But the thing I mentioned last week that worries me about Inter is they don't score enough goals. And if you don't have that habit of putting the ball in the back of the net, it will catch up with you. It will catch up. It just will catch up. Yeah. So they're going to embarrass today. They lost over the weekend. So they've lost. Check this out now. They lost 2 games back to back in 2 different competitions. They didn't score in either game. Thuram is injured.
Okay, so now it's a problem.
Yes.
What you just said.
Now it's a problem.
Now it's a problem. It's and I think you also mentioned we were talking earlier. At this level of sport, tape matters.
Oh yes.
So people are gonna see how you stifle a team like Inter, and they're gonna copy paste. Everybody's taking notes on how to do that, because you can't win the game if you don't score. And as good as they have been defensively this season, I mean, like I said, at this point there's attrition on the squad. Everybody's there's rotation. There's players that are tired, and there's players that inevitably blink. And I think it's a point where Inter's really going to have a look in the mirror and try and break their duck, because they don't have time to waste. Every game is super important.
Yeah, I think that's a nice transition into the games that we're looking forward to. Sticking with Inter, obviously at this point, every single Inter game, every single Napoli game from now on is must watch, right? They're playing AS Roma, who's 7th in the league. Again, they should beat AS Roma, but again, just those games, you just never know, right? But I'm also more interested again with the matchup against Barcelona. I think, like we were talking about earlier, with how Celta scored 3 goals out. Iglesias scored 3 goals for Celta against Barcelona. I think that Inter can replicate that. In fact, that's crazy, because I just thought about it now. Iglesias scored a hat-trick against Barcelona, beating their high line.
Yeah.
Their last Champions League game, Guerrero scored a hat-trick against Barcelona. So, maybe they were beating their high lines, but I don't remember any of the goals actually coming out of from that specific play, but they were dangerous off the high line. So, interesting from both parties. Barcelona conceding these goals, and Inter not conceding and not scoring, which is also a problem. So we'll see what style works out. So obviously games to look forward to. Looking forward to Liverpool, Tottenham. Liverpool just need a point to secure the league, and that means you have to give them guard of honor. Make sure you text me Shopper as well. Shop, see what's up. Then so that's one game to look at. Obviously, the classical Copa del Rey final.
Massive fixture.
So please say a prayer for me.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, there's all to play for. This is my favorite part of being a football fan. It's this part of the season.
Yep.
The games are coming fast and furious, and every player on the team knows how important each game is. So earlier on, you can see some players being, we've got more this means something to everybody, as trivial as that sounds. So it's gonna make for some really good podcasts, and more importantly, some really entertaining footy. So I'm stoked.
Oh, I didn't mention Arsenal PSG, which is funny how all these teams. I believe PSG tied their last game. I'll confirm, but
they clinched it.
They clinched that. It doesn't.
Think about that game, man. I'm worried. I'm really, really worried because Arsenal, I was telling you last week, they're playing physical, smash mouth football, in my opinion, in the Champions League. And that translates very well to the Champions League, more so than it does to the Prem, because the Prem is, teams like Villa, teams like even Palace have players like Mateta who are he's a dog.
Yeah, it's a physical presence.
Yeah, it's a very physical presence. I think PSG's finesse. I think they're quick. I think they're technical. I think you can hit them in the mouth and they're going to say out and they're going to bleed. And I think in that time that it's going to take for them to adjust to that physicality that you're bringing to them, because they don't play like that really truly in Liga. I mean, there's a couple of teams that will take it to them. But by and large, that's not the energy that they're used to. And I think Arsenal's doing that better than Villa, who showed PSG problems last week when they really needed to be, when they really were like, okay, you're in the jungle, you're in England, you're in, our home stadium or whatever. We're really going to make you, we're going to really make you uncomfortable. You're not going to have time on the ball, we're going to all that stuff. I'm really curious to see how physical, Arsenal approaches the game. I think Luis Enrique is a great coach as well, phenomenal coach.
Yes,
and the team has been built in his image. So I'm very curious to see the meeting of the minds.
I mean, that matchup. I think this matchup of the midfield, like Arsenal. I think Partey is suspended for that first game.
So it's Jorginho. Hey, wait.
They won't play Jorginho. They'll just play Rice at the side.
Okay. If Jorginho sees the pitch,
but it's the midfield three of Arsenal versus Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, and João Gomes. So that matchup, I think, is where the game will be won. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, Luis Kelly joins the Arsenal midfield, but PSG might see their Luis Kelly into the midfield and raise them. Hakimi and Nuno Gomes in their box scoring like their 9. So again, midfield battle will be interesting. Then difference in styles, right? So with the wing backs specifically. So it'll be interesting to see. But I was going to say earlier, like all these teams, Arsenal, PSG, Inter, and Barcelona. Barcelona is the only team that has won every single game since their last Champions League game. If I'm not mistaken. They're the only team that won every game. But even those games they won, they didn't really play very well. So what I'm trying to make is none of them are playing well at this moment. So it will see
those four teams.
None of them are playing well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's not often that in the Champions League you'll get 4 teams from 4 different leagues in the semifinals. It's kind of like the perfectly balanced situation.
And and you can make a case for any of them to go and win.
Any of them can do it. I think Arsenal, maybe the end of the last round, I would have been like Arsenal's the strongest, or Arsenal or PSG are probably the stronger side. And I would have edged Arsenal just because of the physicality, but not so fast, my friend. I think that PSG played. I mean, in terms of the ability to score several goals and to really provide, bring an energy to their opposition that they cannot match in terms of creation and scoring. Given the teams that are left in the competition, I mean, save Barcelona. I think it's Barcelona and PSG are the most attractive offensively. Arsenal, moments of basmati jasmine or parboiled rice.
It's coming out.
Because I'm as upset as anybody. I don't want to see Arsenal win a Champions League. We are the only club in London who can say that, and I do not want to see that go away. So, that's number one. But I think what I was going to say. I think PSG. I think those four teams being balanced from each league is unique. We should relish in that.
Yes.
But next year, and I won't talk. I know we've been talking for a good bit.
Yeah.
But next year we're gonna have maybe 6 or 7 teams from England in the in European competitions, and we're not going to get the balance that we see this year. So
yeah. Well, who knows?
Who knows? It's still all in the all in the mix.
All in the mix. But yeah, so those games was really, really looking for a big week,
Huge,
big week coming. So I will be watching, and Nelson will be watching. But yeah, that's all I had. Thank you for listening. Mark episode 2.
Yeah, in the books.
In the books. Ball IQ Pod. Again, our goal is to just talk about the game more tactically and kind of analyze the reviews and to see what teams are doing and what they have the propensity to do in the future as well. So it'll be curious to see obviously from an entertainment standpoint, but also from a tactical standpoint, what all these guys do this weekend in this squeaky bum time in the season. So
of course,
that's it. Tolu, Real Madrid fan.
Nelson, the biggest Chelsea fan, signing off.